The edge of human space was a quiet place, far from the bright centers of the galaxy. Small outposts floated between lonely stars. Most ships passed through without stopping. Only a few explorers and traders stayed long enough to look at the endless black sky. Outpost Helios 7 was one of those quiet stations. It was small, only home to about 100 people. They worked in silence, monitoring signals from the deep void. Their job was simple: listen for anything unusual. For years they heard nothing but static, broken transmissions, and the soft hum of the station's engines. Commander Aria Vale had grown used to that silence. She had spent 10 years in the listening post, watching distant suns and hearing nothing back. But one day something changed. It started with a weak sound. Technician Leo caught it first. "Commander," he said, turning in his chair, "I think we've got something." Aria walked over. The sound played again through the speakers, a faint pulse like a heartbeat mixed with static. "Coordinates?" she asked. "Sector 91 Delta, outside our communication grid." She frowned. That region was far beyond human colonies. Only old star charts mentioned it, marked with warning symbols: dead zones, uncharted areas, no known life. "Run it through the translation filters," she ordered. Leo nodded. The computer hummed for several minutes. Then a strange, trembling voice filled the room. It was not human. It was ancient, tired, and almost gone. To any who listen, we ask for help. This is the world of Serath. Our light is dying." The signal broke into static again. The control room went silent. Everyone stared at the screen. "Serath," Aria whispered. She knew that name from old history lessons. The Serathi were one of the first alien races to contact humanity after Earth's darkest age. Hundreds of years ago, when Earth nearly destroyed itself in wars and hunger, the Serathi had sent medicine and knowledge. They had helped rebuild Earth's atmosphere, repaired satellites, and shared their science freely. Then they vanished. No one knew what happened to them. Some said their empire fell. Others believed they returned to another galaxy. Humanity had moved on, forgetting that act of kindness. But now they were calling again. Aria stood tall. "Open the archives," she said. Leo blinked. "Ma'am?" "The AI archives," she repeated. "Search every record for the Serathi." The lights dimmed as the station's main AI Echo came online. Its soft digital voice filled the room. "Accessing historical memory? Records found. The Serathi were allies of humanity during the Recovery Era. Their last transmission to Earth was 342 years ago. They wished us peace and progress." Aria nodded slowly. "And now they ask for help." Echo paused. "Indeed. Their signal is over 3 centuries old in style and code. The message was sent recently, but the culture behind it has aged." Aria stared at the screen. Outside the window, a lonely sun burned weakly in the distance. "Prepare a report," she said. "Send it to Central Command." 2 days later, the reply came. The High Council of Earth had read her report. Normally, such a message would be ignored. Too far, too risky, too costly. But this time, something was different. When the Serathi name appeared in the archives, it unlocked old records buried deep in Earth's history. People remembered the stories of the aliens who saved humanity when the planet was dying. They remembered the gifts, the hope, the shared bond. The Council voted. The decision was rare and bold. Humanity would answer the call. The fleet that formed was small but full of purpose. 5 ships, 1 hospital vessel, 1 colony ship, 2 defense cruisers, and a science vessel. Together they formed Task Force Dawnlight, named for the hope that the Serathi once brought to Earth. Commander Aria Vale was chosen to lead. The day they left, every major network on Earth played the same message. We remember those who helped us. Even across centuries and stars, humanity does not forget kindness. Children in cities watched the ships rise through the clouds. Old veterans saluted as they vanished into orbit. The journey ahead would take months, through unknown regions where no human beacon shone. Deep in space, the fleet moved like a silver thread through the dark. Inside the main ship Sol's Grace, Aria stood before a window watching the stars drift. Dr. Kian, the chief scientist, joined her. "We're really doing this," he said softly. Aria smiled faintly. "We are." Most of the crew weren't even born when the Serathi name last appeared in any book, he continued. But now everyone feels it, like we're paying a debt we didn't know we had. Aria nodded. "Gratitude doesn't need to be immediate. It just needs to be true." The doctor looked at her. Do you think they're still alive? Arya didn't answer for a long time. If they sent that signal, someone must be. And if they're gone, we'll still go, because that's who we are. Weeks passed. The fleet crossed through dust clouds and old battlefields left from wars long forgotten. Broken ships floated silently, ghosts of civilizations that had fought and fallen. Humanity had learned from them. This mission wasn't about conquest, it was about remembrance. One night, a storm of cosmic radiation hit. The ships shook, alarms blared, and for a moment they lost navigation. Arya's calm voice guided everyone. Hold steady. We've survived worse. Remember Earth's storms. When the storm cleared, they saw it. A small, dim sun surrounded by gray planets. The system matched the old charts. Sarath was real. Bring us into orbit, Arya said. The image appeared on the main screen. The planet was scarred. Craters, black lines of destruction, and cities in ruins. Only a few lights flickered on the night side. Dr. Kian whispered, "It looks empty." Echo's voice echoed softly. Scanning surface life. Results minimal. Survivors detected, less than 100,000. Atmosphere unstable. Arya's heart tightened. We're too late. Not yet, she said aloud, turning to her crew. Prepare landing teams. Medical and engineering units first. If even one Sarathi still breathes, we will find them. When they landed, the air was thin and smelled like burnt metal. The ground was covered with dust and ash. Broken towers rose like bones of a long-dead city. Then from the shadows, a movement. Small figures watching them. Thin, pale, and trembling. Their large eyes reflected the humans' lights. One of them stepped forward, leaning on a broken staff. Its voice was weak but clear. Humans, you came. Arya removed her helmet, breathing the thin air. We came, she said gently. We remembered. The old Sarathi bowed his head. We thought you had forgotten us. The stars are cruel and kindness is rare. Arya knelt before him. Not to us. You helped us when we were broken. We don't forget those who give hope. Tears like drops of light formed in the alien's eyes. Then perhaps the universe still has mercy. Behind Arya, her crew began unpacking supplies. Generators roared to life. Medical teams rushed to the wounded. Engineers started building shelters from broken walls. For the first time in centuries, the dead city of Sarath heard voices again. Human voices speaking words of comfort, promise, and purpose. Above them, the fleet shimmered in orbit, sending beacons across the stars. The message was short but powerful. Humanity answers the call. Night fell over the ruined world. Fires burned gently where machines worked to restore power. The Sarathi survivors gathered around the humans, their eyes glowing softly in the dark. Arya stood on a high platform, watching the scene. Dr. Kian joined her again. They thought no one would come, he said. Arya smiled faintly. That's what makes it worth coming. He looked at her. You think the universe will notice? Oh, it will, she said. Every act of help leaves a mark. And when humanity remembers, the galaxy changes. Above them, the stars shimmered brighter, as if listening. The sun of Sarath was weak and pale like an old candle about to fade. Its light touched the ruined cities and broken towers that once shone with life. Now they were silent reminders of what had been lost. Commander Arya Vale walked through the streets, her boots leaving soft prints in the dust. The Sarathi city was enormous, built from smooth silver stones and strange glowing crystals. Once it might have been beautiful. Now only fragments of that beauty remained. Behind her, a group of human engineers set up portable lights and power units. The machines hummed softly, bringing a small spark of life back to the dead world. The Sarathi survivors watched from a distance, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope. Dr. Kian walked beside Arya, scanning the ruins with his tablet. The radiation levels are low enough for long-term work, he said. We can start rebuilding shelters within a few days. Arya nodded. Good. The sooner we stabilize the surface, the sooner we can help the Sarathi recover. She looked around at the surviving aliens, tall, thin beings with translucent skin and long fingers. Their eyes shone like blue glass, reflecting the humans' lights. There were so few of them left. An elderly Sarathi named Sailor had become their guide. He was the same one who greeted Arya when they first landed. Despite his weakness, he moved with quiet dignity. He approached now, leaning on his staff. You humans work fast, he said softly. Arya smiled. We have to. Time is not kind to anyone. Sailor's eyes glowed faintly. When our world began to fall, we sent many calls for help. None answered. We thought we were forgotten. You weren't, Arya said. It just took us time to hear you. Sailor nodded. And yet you came. You remembered what we did long ago. Arya looked toward the sky where the human ships orbited, tiny lights against the blackness. You gave us hope when Earth was broken. Now it's our turn. Days passed. The humans worked endlessly. Engineers repaired the water systems. Medics treated the sick with advanced nanomedicine. Drones cleared the streets of rubble and began planting small patches of green life. For the first time in centuries, smoke rose from chimneys again. Not from destruction, but from rebuilding. The Sarathi, weak and frightened at first, began to help. They worked beside the humans, learning how to use the machines and tools. The sight was strange but beautiful. Two species, one ancient and one young, rebuilding a dying world together. Dr. Kian kept records of every step. He believed this mission was more than rescue. It was history being rewritten. We're proving that kindness survives time, he said one evening while looking at the data. Arya agreed. Maybe one day someone will remember this the way we remembered them. But peace never lasts long in the stars. On the 10th day, a warning came from the orbiting ship's solar wing. A sharp tone filled Arya's communicator. Commander Vale, long-range sensors have picked up movement, the officer reported. Unidentified vessels approaching the system. Arya's expression hardened. How many? 6. No, 7 ships, large military class. Dr. Kian froze. Could they be Sarathi? Sailor, who stood nearby, shook his head. No, the ones who destroyed our home returned to finish what they started. Everyone turned toward him. Who are they? Arya asked. The Karth Dominion, Sailor said bitterly. They came from the dark edges of space. They saw our world's light and envied it. We tried to share knowledge, but they wanted control. When we refused, they burned our skies. Arya clenched her fists. And they're back. Sailor looked at her with tired eyes. You should leave. The Karth destroy anyone who stands in their way. You owe us nothing. Arya shook her head firmly. We owe you everything. The warning lights flashed red. The human ships moved into defensive formation above Sarath. The Soul's Grace activated its shields while drones launched into orbit to form a protective net. Arya returned to the command post, her voice calm but steady. Prepare all evacuation routes for the Sarathi civilians. But we hold our ground, Dr. Kian protested. Arya, we can't fight an Empire's fleet. We're not fighting to win, she said. We're fighting to protect. The command room went silent. Every human there understood. Humanity had been saved once by compassion. Now they would prove that compassion could be strength. Hours later, the dark shapes of Karth ships entered orbit. They were massive, black iron giants with sharp wings and glowing red cores. Their communication beam broke through the static. A cold voice spoke in the universal language. Unidentified human fleet, you are trespassing on Karth Dominion territory. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed, Arya replied calmly, her voice broadcast across space. This world is not yours. It belongs to the Sarathi, who once helped us when we were weak. We are here to return that kindness, the Karth captain laughed. Kindness? There is no place for kindness in the galaxy. Only power. Arya's tone stayed calm. Then you've already lost something greater than power. The transmission ended. The battle began. Bolts of light filled the sky as plasma weapons fired. The human fleet, though smaller, fought with precision and unity. They had fewer guns, but they had courage and strategy. The defense cruisers moved to block the incoming fire while the science ship used its energy shields to protect the surface teams. Inside the ruined city, the ground shook as explosions lit the horizon. The Sarathi watched in fear, but the humans stayed steady. Arya's voice came through every channel. Hold formation. Remember why we're here? The first Karth ship fell when a human torpedo struck its reactor. The explosion flashed like a new sun, lighting the gray clouds. Cheers erupted across the fleet, but Arya stayed focused. Stay on target, she ordered. We're not here to destroy, we're here to defend. On the surface, Dr. Kian led the evacuation of Sarathi families into underground shelters. Hurry, he called, helping an injured child into a transport. Stay together. Sailor watched the humans work, his eyes full of disbelief. You risk everything for us, he said. Kian smiled weakly. It's what you once did for us. The old alien placed a trembling hand on his shoulder. Then the stars chose well when they made you our friends. The battle raged for hours. One by one, the human ships were damaged, but they refused to fall. They fought with a kind of desperate courage that came from memory. The memory of being saved, of being given a second chance. Finally, the Carth fleet withdrew. Their leader sent one last transmission before leaving. "This is not over, humans. You protect the dying, but soon you will die beside them." Arya didn't answer. She just watched their ships fade into the distance. The silence that followed was deep and heavy. Then slowly the people on the surface began to cheer. Humanity had stood against an empire and survived. That night, under the weak light of Sarath's sun, the survivors gathered around a fire. Humans and Sarathi sat together, eating shared food and speaking in quiet voices. Arya looked at the stars. "They'll come back," she said softly. Dr. Kian nodded. "Then we'll be ready." Sailor sat beside her, his face glowing in the firelight. "When your people came, I thought the stars had forgotten mercy. But tonight I see that mercy still lives." Arya smiled. "It lives because of you. You taught us what it means to help without asking for anything in return." Sailor bowed his head. "Then the circle is complete." Arya looked at him with calm strength. "No, the circle has only begun. Because every act of kindness we repay becomes another spark in the dark. And someday the whole galaxy will shine." Above them, the fleet's lights shimmered like new constellations, marking the return of hope. For the Sarathi, the age of despair had ended. For humanity, a new story had begun, one not written with conquest but with memory and gratitude. And somewhere, far beyond the horizon, the stars whispered, "Humanity remembers." Weeks passed after the battle, and the skies of Sarath finally grew quiet. The fires were gone and the air smelled of rain again. The humans and Sarathi worked together, turning ruins into homes. Where once there had been broken walls, now rose clean shelters and glowing lamps powered by human energy cores. Commander Arya Vale stood on the rebuilt balcony of the central tower, looking over the city. It was still damaged but alive. Dr. Kian joined her carrying a report tablet. "Water system stable. Food production is running. The Sarathi can breathe their air again without filters." Arya nodded with a small smile. "That's good news. We're giving them a chance to live again." Kian hesitated before speaking again. "But the fleet is low on supplies. If the Carth return with more ships, we won't be ready." Arya turned to him. Her voice was calm but firm. "Then we'll make friends who stand with us. We can't protect one world alone." The Sarathi had once been a proud and wise civilization. Their archives, though damaged, still held fragments of their knowledge. Scientists from both species began to study them. In the largest chamber of the city, a group of Sarathi elders and human researchers worked together under the glowing light of the restored crystals. The room was quiet except for the hum of machines translating old data. Sailor, the elder who had guided them since arrival, stood near a holographic globe. "This," he said softly, pointing at the projection, "is the old map of the stars before our fall. There were once many worlds that called us friends. Some may still exist." Arya looked at the stars displayed. "If they remember you, maybe they'll help now." Sailor sighed. "If they remember? Empires rise and fall. Kindness fades faster than power." Arya smiled faintly. "Not always. We're proof of that." But far away, beyond the reach of the Sarathi's small system, the Carth Dominion was not silent. In a great dark citadel floating above a gas giant, the Carth lords gathered. Their leader, High Marshal Tereth, stood before a giant view screen showing images of the human ships. "These creatures dare to defy us," Tereth said, his voice cold. "They defend a world that should have been dust." Another general replied, "Reports say they call themselves humans. A young race. From the outer arms. Not powerful but stubborn." Tereth's eyes narrowed. "They defeated a Carth fleet. That cannot be ignored. If one small race defies us, others may follow." He walked slowly toward the center of the hall, his heavy steps echoing. "Find their homeworld. Study their strength. Crush them if needed. The galaxy must remember who rules." The others bowed silently. The command was clear. Back on Sarath, life continued to grow. The bond between humans and Sarathi became stronger each day. Children of both species played near the new gardens. The Sarathi elders taught songs of old while human engineers shared new tools and ideas. It was a picture of unity that few would have believed possible. Arya often watched them and thought of Earth, how her ancestors had once struggled after their own fall, and how the Sarathi had saved them. Now humanity was giving that same gift back. Dr. Kian called it the Circle of Remembrance. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the horizon, a strange signal reached the command post. It was faint but steady, coming from deep space. Lieutenant Hana called out, "Commander, unknown signal detected. Encrypted transmission, non-Karth origin." Arya leaned forward. "Open a channel." A soft musical voice filled the room. "This is the world of Lyran. We have seen your actions on Serath. The humans who fought the Dominion. We wish to speak." The crew exchanged looks. Another world had noticed. Arya smiled. "Tell them we're listening." 3 days later, a sleek golden ship appeared near Serath. It carried the emblem of the Lyran Alliance, a peaceful trade civilization that had stayed hidden during the Karth Wars. When the Lyran ambassador stepped onto the surface, the Sarathi gasped. The two species had once been close friends before the war that destroyed Serath. The ambassador bowed to Arya. "Commander Vale, we saw your fleet stand against the Dominion. Few would risk so much for another race. The Lyran remember the Sarathi too. We wish to help." Arya extended her hand. "Then together we can do more than survive. We can rebuild." That day an alliance was born. News traveled fast through the stars. The story of humans defending a fallen world spread from system to system. Small colonies, miners, traders, and refugees all heard of it. Some called it a legend, the humans who remembered kindness. But to others it was a sign of danger. The Karth Dominion's power was being challenged not by weapons, but by example. High Marshal Tereth received report after report. The words humanity remembers appeared in secret transmissions, in songs, in resistance banners. It was spreading like light through darkness. He slammed his hand on the control console. "They are turning the galaxy against us." His advisor replied carefully, "Fear is losing strength, my lord. People are beginning to believe in hope again." Tereth's eyes burned with fury. "Then we will crush their hope. Prepare the fleet. This time, they will face the full power of the Dominion." On Serath, Arya didn't yet know how much her mission had changed the galaxy. She only knew that they had little time. Every night she studied reports, new allies, new threats, and whispers of war. Dr. Kian entered the command room one evening, carrying a message pad. "We've confirmed movement in nearby systems. The Karth are gathering again." Arya nodded slowly. "I expected that. What about the Lyran? They're sending ships and medical aid. Other small worlds might follow." "You've started something big, Commander." Arya looked out the window at the shining, rebuilt city. "It's not about me. It's about remembering what matters." Meanwhile, in the medical camp, human doctors worked with Sarathi healers. Together they created new medicines by mixing old alien science with human biotechnology. One young Sarathi girl, Lyra, had lost her family during the first attack. She followed the humans everywhere, asking questions. "Why do you help us?" She once asked Dr. Kian. He smiled gently. "Because when someone helps you, it becomes part of who you are. You carry it forward." She thought for a long moment, then said, "Then when I grow up, I will help others too." Kian's heart warmed. That's exactly how it begins. Days later, the stars above Serath changed again. New energy readings appeared, dozens of ships moving in formation. Lieutenant Hana's voice was tense. "Commander!" Multiple warp signatures detected. "It's the Dominion, hundreds of them." Arya stood up immediately. "Alert all ships. Evacuation protocols for civilians. Prepare defensive positions." The Sarathi panicked, remembering the destruction from before. But this time things were different. They were not alone. Lyran ships arrived first, forming a shining arc above Serath. Then small fleets from human colonies joined them, their hulls glowing silver and blue. It was not a great armada, but it was united, different races standing together for one purpose. Dr. Kian whispered. "We've started a movement," Arya nodded. "We've started hope." As the Dominion fleet appeared, dark and massive, the stars seemed to fade behind them. High Marshal Tereth himself commanded the attack. His voice filled every channel. "You think your alliance can stop the Dominion? You are children playing with fire. The galaxy obeys strength," Arya answered calmly. "Strength is not obedience. True strength is remembering who helped you when you were weak." Then she gave a single command. "Defend the light." The battle that followed shook the skies. Flashes of blue and gold lit the darkness as ships fought across the orbit. The Lyran used their energy shields to protect Sarath's surface. Human ships moved in tight formations covering each other. Even damaged vessels refused to retreat. Down below, the Sarathi watched in awe. They had once thought their story had ended, but now they saw something new. People from across the stars fighting for them. Inspired by one act of kindness, Sailor stood with other elders, his voice trembling. They remember us. The humans truly remember. The fight lasted long into the night. For every ship the Dominion destroyed, 2 more stood in its place. The alliance was small but filled with courage. Finally, High Marshal Tareth's flagship took a direct hit from a combined strike. Human torpedoes and Lyran light beams colliding into one great explosion. The Dominion ships scattered, retreating in silence. As they fled, Arya's voice echoed across the stars. We remember, and we protect those who once protected us. This is humanity's promise. The galaxy listened. When the battle ended, the skies were full of smoke and broken metal, but also filled with victory. The survivors cheered. The Sarathi knelt and sang an ancient song of gratitude. Arya stood on the command bridge, exhausted but smiling. Dr. Keon turned to her and said quietly, "The silent empire has spoken, but so has humanity." Arya looked out at the stars where new lights flickered, signals from faraway worlds joining the cause. "Their silence is ending," she said, "because kindness speaks louder than fear." And somewhere beyond the horizon, hope began to spread from world to world, carried not by conquerors, but by those who remembered. The battle had ended, but the sky over Sarath was still heavy with smoke. Broken ships drifted in orbit like fallen giants. Flames still licked the ruins of the outer city. The human and Lyran fleets had won, but victory was only the beginning. Commander Arya Vale surveyed the aftermath from the balcony of the central tower. Her uniform was scorched in places, her face streaked with ash. She did not speak. Instead, she let her eyes travel over the survivors gathering below, Sarathi, humans, and Lyran alike. Every face showed relief and exhaustion, but also determination. Dr. Keon joined her carrying a datapad. "We've counted the losses," he said softly. "Human ships, 5 damaged but repairable. Lyran minimal damage, Sarathi injured but alive. Dominion retreating." Arya nodded, her jaw tight. "Good, that was the first test. The real challenge begins now, helping the survivors heal and teaching mercy, even to those who attacked us." The Sarathi city needed immediate attention. Fires were extinguished by human drones, and medical teams worked tirelessly, patching wounds and restoring energy to damaged life support systems. The survivors were weak, and some of the youngest had never seen humans before. Fear lingered in their wide, blue-glass eyes. Sailor, the Sarathi elder, approached Arya. "Your people are remarkable," he said. "They fight, yet they do not hate. They save even while under attack. I have never seen such strength in my life." Arya lowered her gaze. "It is not strength alone. It is gratitude and memory. We remember who helped us. That makes us act with purpose." Sailor nodded slowly. "Then perhaps your memory will be the reason our world survives." Days passed, and the humans worked alongside the Sarathi to rebuild their home. They repaired energy grids, restored water systems, and planted seeds for the first crops in decades. Humans showed the Sarathi how to use advanced technology without losing the traditions of their culture. Dr. Keon, along with a team of human and Lyran scientists, restored old Sarathi libraries. Ancient knowledge that had once been lost to time was now accessible. The young Sarathi began learning human science, while humans learned their language, history, and art. "The city is rising again," Keon said one evening, watching children play in the light of newly restored lanterns. "This time it will be stronger than before." Arya smiled faintly. "Not because of us, because they will remember what they received and they will pass it forward." But the Karth Dominion was far from finished. Though their fleet had retreated, their influence still stretched through the stars. Other systems under their control whispered fearfully about the humans who dared to fight back. Rumors spread that the small young race from the Outer Arms had faced the mighty Dominion and survived. In secret, some Karth officers began questioning their leaders. "If the humans can withstand us," one said, "then perhaps our empire is not as unshakable as we believed." Tareth, their high marshal, was furious. "Doubt is weakness, only power survives. Crush these humans completely or the galaxy will turn against us. On Sarath, Arya gathered her officers. We have won a battle, but there is more to do, she said. The Dominion will return. When they do, they will expect fear. We will show them courage, and if possible, we will show them mercy. Lieutenant Hanna looked uncertain. Mercy, Commander? After everything they did? Arya met her eyes. Yes, we fight to protect, not to destroy. True strength lies in choosing who we hurt and who we save. The crew nodded. They understood. This mission was bigger than war. It was about principles and about showing the galaxy a new way to live. The humans and Lyran established secure zones around the Sarathi cities. They brought in new generators, constructed shelters, and taught the Sarathi how to use self-defense drones. But the teaching went beyond technology. Arya made sure every human officer led by example, showing patience and kindness even in stressful situations. One day, a small group of Karth deserters appeared at the outskirts of the city. They were weak and injured, seeking refuge from the larger Dominion fleet. Sailor and some of the Sarathi elders urged caution. They are the enemy, Sailor warned. Do not let them enter. Arya considered this. They are lost and alone, she said. We do not act for revenge, only for justice and preservation. Let them come. The humans and Lyran carefully escorted the Karth deserters into secure zones. They treated wounds, fed them, and offered clean clothing. Slowly, the deserters began to understand that these humans were unlike any enemy they had faced. One young Karth soldier, barely older than a human recruit, looked around in disbelief. Why do you help us? He whispered. Arya knelt to meet his eyes. Because one day someone helped us when we could not survive alone. We remember that, and now we repay it, even to those who were once our foes. The soldier's eyes filled with tears. I have never known mercy like this. Arya smiled gently. Then perhaps you will learn to carry it forward. Meanwhile, the Sarathi began to rebuild their culture. They reopened schools, restarted local governments, and celebrated festivals that had not been seen in centuries. Children learned both Sarathi tradition and human innovation. Sailor watched this new world with pride. The humans brought more than aid, he said to Arya one evening. They brought hope. They taught us to believe again. Arya shook her head. Hope already existed inside you. We only helped you see it. But the galaxy was not silent. Reports of human mercy and courage spread from system to system. Traders, scientists, and diplomats carried tales of the humans who defended Sarath and healed both allies and former enemies. Small civilizations that had hidden in fear began to emerge. High Marshal Tereth of the Karth Dominion received these reports. His fury grew, but so did an unfamiliar sense of doubt. They fight not with fire alone, but with hearts, he muttered. Perhaps we underestimated them. Back on Sarath, a large ceremony was held to honor those who had helped the city rise from ruins. Humans, Lyran, and Sarathi all gathered. Fires burned brightly. Lanterns floated into the sky and music filled the air. Arya stood at the front, facing the crowd. We came because we remembered, she said. You helped humanity when our world was broken. Now we are here to help you. That is all any of us can do. Remember and repay kindness. The Sarathi sang in response, their voices blending with human music and Lyran harmonies. The sound echoed through the rebuilt city and into the stars. Sailor turned to Arya. Your people are unlike any I have seen. You fight, yes, but you also forgive. That is the true gift you bring. Arya smiled faintly. The gift was always yours. We only remembered. As night fell, a young Sarathi boy ran up to Arya. Commander, will you stay? He asked. Will humans always help us? She knelt to his level. We will always remember you. And as long as we remember, we will always come when help is needed. The boy's eyes widened. Then we can live freely? Arya nodded. Yes, and one day you will teach someone else what we taught you today. That is how the galaxy changes, one act of kindness at a time. From orbit, the human and Lyran fleets watched the city glow with light and life. Ships of other small worlds had begun arriving quietly, offering aid and forming alliances. The galaxy was beginning to notice, and hope was spreading faster than fear. Commander Arya Vale looked out at the horizon. She knew the Karth Dominion would return, stronger than before. But she also knew something more powerful than ships or weapons, the memory of kindness, the repayment of compassion, and the courage to protect those who once helped humanity. Somewhere, far beyond the stars, Whispers of the humans' promise reached ears that had long been silent. One simple truth spread: humanity remembers. And when humanity remembered, it did more than fight. It inspired. The fires of Sarath burned brightly, not with destruction, but with life, hope, and forgiveness. And the galaxy waited to see what humanity would do next. Years passed on Sarath, and the city that had once been a ruin now thrived. Buildings gleamed with new metals, gardens flourished where dust had once spread, and streets were alive with the laughter of children. Humans, Lyran, and Sarathi worked side by side, forging a community that no one had believed could exist after such devastation. Commander Arya Vale watched from the tower once more. Her uniform now carried the marks of experience rather than battle, emblems of service, leadership, and honor. She smiled quietly, seeing the Sarathi move freely in the streets. Sailor, still strong though aged, stood beside her. "Your people changed more than our city," he said softly. "You changed our lives." "The Sarathi will never forget this," Arya shook her head. "It wasn't just me or my crew. It was humanity remembering. That is what matters most." The memory of kindness had spread beyond Sarath. Across the galaxy, small worlds began to communicate openly with each other, sharing knowledge and resources in ways they had never done before. The story of humanity's actions reached systems that had lived in fear for centuries. Even the Karth Dominion, though still powerful, began to experience change. Their citizens whispered tales of humans who fought without hatred, who helped even their enemies, and who remembered those who had once aided them. Rumors of defection spread among the Dominion fleets as soldiers questioned the value of conquest versus mercy. High Marshal Tereth, now older and less certain, observed the galaxy from his citadel. The humans' influence had grown far faster than he had anticipated. He could not crush hope with weapons alone. For the first time, he wondered if fear was truly stronger than memory, or if it was simply a weaker force. On Sarath, life settled into a new rhythm. Humans trained Sarathi engineers and doctors, while Lyran diplomats helped organize trade and governance. Young Sarathi like Lyra, who had once clung to humans in fear, now ran freely among friends from multiple species. She studied human science alongside her own culture's traditions, learning that knowledge and compassion could exist together. She approached Arya one day, carrying a small device with glowing lights. "Commander Vale, we've built a message beacon," she said proudly. "It tells our story to the galaxy. Everyone will know that humans remember kindness." Arya's eyes softened. "You built it? You remembered the lesson?" Lyra nodded. "We will remember and we will teach others, just as you taught us." The galaxy beyond Sarath continued to notice. Traders, explorers, and diplomats carried news of humanity's promise to new systems. Slowly, the idea spread. Acts of kindness and help are never forgotten. Every gesture of aid carries weight, and those who remember it can change worlds. Some planets that had once been loyal to the Dominion began to rethink their allegiances. Small rebellions occurred, not with rage but with hope. Entire colonies began protecting one another, inspired by the humans' courage and mercy. Back on Sarath, Arya convened a council of all species. Humans, Lyran, and Sarathi leaders gathered to discuss the future. "We have rebuilt a world," Arya said, "but our task is not complete. We must ensure that the memory of kindness continues. We must teach that help is more than temporary. It is a promise, a principle, a power that can change the galaxy." Sailor stood and raised his voice. "This is true. We have seen it. When humans remembered what we once gave them, it became more than a repayment, it became a lesson for all of us. Let it be remembered." The council agreed. Plans were made to establish schools, archives, and communication networks that would preserve the story of humanity's deeds. These institutions would ensure that no act of help, no matter how small, would ever be forgotten again. Years turned into decades. The city of Sarath became a symbol across the galaxy. Its history of destruction and rebirth was taught to young leaders, soldiers, and citizens. Humans became known not as conquerors or invaders, but as guardians who remembered and repaid kindness. The memory of the first human fleet that arrived in the ruined world became legendary. Songs, stories, and holographic archives recorded their courage, mercy, and dedication. Scholars compared the acts of humanity to the greatest achievements of empires, noting that while empires built walls and weapons, Humans built trust, alliances, and hope. One day, a small ship arrived at Sarath's orbital station. It carried a delegation from a distant system that had never seen humans before. The delegation leader bowed deeply. "We have heard of your people. The stories say you remember kindness. We wish to join your alliance to learn and to share what we know." Arya smiled. "Welcome. You will find that remembering kindness is more powerful than any weapon. Together we will protect and uplift those who need help." The delegates nodded, awe and respect shining in their eyes. Even the young Karth soldiers who had once opposed humanity returned over time, seeking guidance. They had seen mercy firsthand and understood its strength. Some became allies, teaching their own people about compassion, gratitude, and honor. Dr. Kian reflected on this as he reviewed the data from Sarath. "No one expected humans to have such an influence. We fought, yes, but it was the memory of past kindness that carried us." "That is our true strength," Arya agreed quietly. "It is not strength as others define it. It is the power of remembering what matters and acting upon it." The city of Sarath now held annual celebrations in honor of the human fleet that came so long ago. Lanterns floated into the sky, each representing an act of kindness that had been remembered. Sarathi children learned the stories. Human children learned their alien friends' histories, and Lyran students shared messages of hope across the stars. Sailor, older now and leaning on a staff, watched the lanterns rise. "It is beautiful," he whispered. "Every act remembered and repaid lights the universe." Arya stood beside him. "Yes, and it will not end here. Humanity will continue to remember, and the galaxy will change because of it." Decades later, historians of the galaxy traced the ripple effects. Entire planets had joined alliances. Trade networks had been established for peace rather than profit, and small species that had been overlooked were now thriving. All of it could be traced back to one simple truth. Humans remembered what they had been given. A museum on Sarath displayed the story of the first human fleet. Holograms of Arya, her officers, and the first Sarathi survivors told the tale. A plaque read, "Humanity remembers. Every act of help shapes the galaxy. Every promise fulfilled changes worlds." Visitors, young and old from hundreds of worlds, stood in awe. They left with the understanding that their own actions mattered, that kindness and courage could ripple across time and space. In her later years, Arya often walked among the gardens she had helped restore. Children ran past her laughing in human and Sarathi voices. Trees she had helped plant now reached the sky. Dr. Kian approached with a young Sarathi student. "Commander, she wishes to speak with you." The student looked up. "I want to know why humans help. Why you remember even when it is dangerous." Arya smiled gently. "Because someone once helped us when we were weak. That act became part of who we are. When we remember, we honor the past, protect the present, and inspire the future." The student's eyes widened. "Then I will remember too," Arya nodded. "And that is how the galaxy changes. One memory, one act of help at a time." The stars over Sarath were brighter than ever, not because of suns or technology, but because of the hope that had been ignited across countless worlds. Humanity had shown that remembering kindness could become a force stronger than fear, more lasting than power, and more transformative than war. The ripple of their deeds would continue forever, carried by those who had been helped and those who had witnessed their courage. Across the galaxy, civilizations learned that acts of compassion are never lost, and that true heroes do not conquer, they remember, repay, and inspire. And somewhere far beyond the horizon, the stars seem to whisper the simple truth: humanity remembers. And their payback can change worlds.